Okay, we left off 168, bottom paragraph in the middle. He said every aspect of creation, you're able to see the wisdom of God. Creation. But he says there's certain things have greater representation, others have less. He says, for instance, that's what we're holding. Kashemesh, asheri achas bikoro ba'atzmo. He says you have the sun, is one in itself and its essence. Umischalkos maris nitzuseh bashmoshos. Anasim in aschuches halavona vashchora v'adum v'ayiroko. But in terms of its rays, when it reflects through various, through a glass, through white ashchora v'adum v'ayiroko. Umishtana orok v'ishtanot sivi aschuches. Based on the colors of the glass, the light that's going to filter through the glass, based on the colors, is going to be a different type of light.
Prism.
Not prism. No, he's not a prism. No, no. He says you have an orchard, and you have a garden. You have all kinds of flowers, and each flower is a different color. So you have to gaze and reflect on the various parts of creation from the smallest to the greatest. And each one you're able to derive to see something else. And he says, and delve into what has formerly eluded you. Like the many things that you don't notice, and all of a sudden you start noticing them. But sometimes you have to start with the greater, then you start noticing the lesser.
What about a blade of grass?
What about a blade of grass?
How do you make it? How do you appreciate creation?
How does a blade of grass? If you read any books on botany, or the whole idea how, what's it called, photosynthesis. Photosynthesis.
Yes.
You know photosynthesis. Yes. So that's how the blade. Why is it green? Chlorophyll. Or everything that's related to that blade. It's unbelievable what goes on. And the water, the way it's absorbed, and you have water on the leaf with the sun, and how all this interacts. It's beyond genius. And this is one small aspect of existence. You know, it's interesting. Recently we had snow. And I'm not coming to tell you if we had snow. And then the morning I woke up, you know, it was just warm, and you see the snow on the branches. And it clings onto the branches like you have droplets of water just cling after rain. It just lingers on. Well, the Gemara says that a snow is the equivalent of 6 rains. Why? Because when it rains, the water just runs off. It's a runoff. So the earth can only absorb as much as it can absorb when the water is on it. But if it flows off, it doesn't. But snow, which sits on the earth, so and it melts gradually. So the earth continuously benefits from the snow because the runoff is only later when it melts. That's when you have. But everything. So when it's on the branch and it stays on for an extended period of time, this is actually nurturing and nourishing the tree. And now and not later and so on and so forth. We had about 2 years ago. We had snow. It was the Sukkot time, and the leaves were still on the trees. So what happened? Power outages, broken. Why? Because the leaves, the snow couldn't fall between the branches. So the weight of the snow on the tree caused the trees to just couldn't hold the weight. They fell over. They broke in half or whatever it was. So I mean, the way nature is, the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu set nature with seasons, it's supposed to snow at certain times. If it snows too early, it's a problem. If it snows too late, it's a problem. All these issues. So you start reflecting. This is daily, right?
What about the things you can't see, like the tunnels of the worms that allow the water to go into the earth and all that?
So today that we have books written on all this, if you sit and you read some of these things, you're amazed. You're amazed at this. You know, there's a story. I heard a tape. Victor Miller, his grandson, had spoken of his grandfather. He made a tape on it. I heard it. And he said his grandfather, one day, his grandson in his grandfather's house, and he comes into the kitchen, and the sink is filled with water to the top, and his grandfather's head is submerged in the water. Here? And he doesn't understand what's going on. His head's in the water for about a minute. He doesn't come out. And all of a sudden he comes out, and he takes a deep breath, right, to replenish his oxygen. And the grandfather didn't realize, his beard is dripping, with water. His face is where he takes a towel, and all of a sudden he turns around and sees his grandson looking. He says, "What are you doing here?" And he was like, caught by surprise. His grandson was observing what he was doing. He says to his grandfather, what are you doing? He says, we breathe naturally. Do we appreciate the ability to breathe? We don't appreciate it. So I wanted to appreciate what it means to be able to breathe. So therefore, by putting my head in the water, not being able, and holding my breath, and afterwards having the relief to be able to breathe again, I have an appreciation what Hashem provides for me that I'm able to breathe. That's what he told his grandson. And he said different things. Let's say he would look at an apple. Let's say a delicious apple. The firmness, the color of the shape, the stem, the beauty. Whoever thinks about looking at the beauty of of how attractive something is. This all is to enhance what Hashem gives us. Okay? But, we just gloss off of that. Korean grocery, they used to sell it 3 pounds of apples for so much. Now they sell per apple $2 an apple. That's what people focus on. Not on what the apple is. They look at the Korean, maybe he's an illegal whatever it is. Does he have his green card? Okay, let's see Kedushin.
People don't know anything. I walked through Times Square, I don't know, 1,000 times. I'll do it again today. I can tell you one billboard up there.
Baruch Hashem.
No, but
I mean, you've never looked at the national debt?
no, that I noticed.
Okay, see, that you notice.
I can see that. But I mean, it's the point. Forget about an apple. Like it's
Good, Baruch Hashem. Certain things you shouldn't notice. It's better not to notice. Exactly.
You have to get out of the routine.
I don't know. I just like.
In other words, nature.
My father, Olav Shalom, in the 60s, worked for somebody, very wealthy people. And this person was very wealthy, Jews. And, traditional Jews, not observant. And if he could buy a pair of shoes, even if they were too small for him, and he could save a few dollars, this person would pay less, although he didn't have comfort. So my father once asked me, he says, you can afford to buy a pair of shoes that fit comfortably. So the person says, he says, you don't realize, after wearing a pair of shoes that are tight all day, take them off at night, it's a pleasure. That's what he answered him. You understand, okay? It's relief. To appreciate what you have, the rabbi told him, 100%. How true that is. People have to count their blessings. They don't notice them. So you have to create a situation to be able to notice what you have. Okay. Like I mentioned years ago, in the 50s and 60s, there was a bar mitzvah present they used to give to bar mitzvah boys. Either a fountain pen, or it was a book published by the Hebrew publishing company. It was called Jewish Folklore by something Asbel. His last name was Asbel. It's called Jewish Folklore. That story with the rabbi is in that book. Okay, so even in Detroit, they knew about that story. Okay, even in Detroit.